Hey, welcome. This is the first of a new series that I hope to be doing every week, probably on Wednesdays, although that's still subject to tweaking. I'm going to actually try to set a regular time, a weekly time, so you know what to expect. But this series is called Going Deeper with Schiffer. Why am I doing this? Why am I focusing on going deeper? Because that's what everything's about. The purpose of creation, we could phrase it in many different ways, but the ultimate nutshell synopsis of what creation is all about is for us to be able to see through the walls, to be beyond those walls, reveal the most inner, deepest part of ourselves and the innermost, deepest source of creation. So the process of going deeper, and I've been talking about this, is crucial in our mission, each one of us, in understanding and activating the hidden powers of our soul, and being able to transmute and transform the wired in limiting beliefs and traumas and so forth. The deeper we can go, the deeper you can go. Also in understanding what's happening in current events. The deeper you can go, the more empowered you're going to be. Sometimes it's a bit of a rabbit hole, and that's okay. So what I want to talk about in today's session is the Great Reset and the divine plan. I don't know how many people have heard the expression, the Great Reset. More and more people are hearing it. Some people are saying it's not, it's not real, whatever. The Great Reset, basically, it definitely is real. It seems that there's an international group of people who have been planning this for a while. You can go look it up if you want to, caveat emptor, buy everywhere. Like, it's up to you to look deeper and to sort out the truth from the false, truth from the false truth from falsehood. But basically, there's the Great Reset, like everything else in our world right now, can be interpreted or can be manifested in more than one way. We, again, are in a state of spiritual war. And I encourage you to look at politics, if you care to look at politics. I certainly do, or anything else in the context of spirituality. I'm going to create a hashtag spiritual politics, because everything now is part of the unfolding redemption. And especially those huge world-gripping, humanity-gripping things that are playing out on the global stage, those are spiritual, even though they're expressing themselves through, health issues or political issues or whatever the issues may be. Everything is God. Talking about going deeper. I want to keep repeating that. Ein od milvado. There's nothing here about one. Everything is definitely and deeply, intricately designed to express and reveal that reality that everything is God. There's only one. So politics too. So what is the Great Reset? So the Great Reset, in a small nutshell, is meant to be, it seems to be, include a universal income, property belongs to the government or the bank, whatever it is, but everybody gets to live somewhere, it's kind of an equalization. I don't want to say too much about it, you can look it up yourself, but it's not, in my opinion, a good thing at all. It's part of the hidden agenda that has been moving beneath the surface, that is now coming out now in this state of spiritual war that we're in. So that's one aspect of the Great Reset. I think that group of people named it the Great Reset, but there's another manifestation of the Great Reset, and that is from the other side, where the Great Reset is to take away the extreme power from the banks and to make money honest, and to change or perhaps even eliminate the, lending at interest phenomenon that has been front and present in our world for at least for decades, where, I remember the first time I got a credit card, I was quite naive. And I'm like, wow, this is so good. I can get anything I want. And I went into the store and I bought, I don't know, some shoes and whatever else I bought. And it was only when I got the bill, I'm like, wait a second. What happened here? Maybe you're not as naive as me by nature, but we're sort of doing that as a human family. So the other aspect of the Great Reset is favorable to commit to humanity, to reset that paradigm where many of us have been moved into the hamster wheel, running faster and faster, needing and wanting more and more and more, and having to go into debt to get it, and so forth. So this is all something that's been happening It's not only physical, it's not only financial, it's not only political, it's spiritual. There's so much to say about this, and I want to stay on focus for this particular session, but I want to encourage you to just see that in every area of life, why have we moved so much into a polarized state where, one side says this and the other side says that, and they're actually opposites? It's because there's an opening and a sifting out of truth and falsehood, good and evil, of what's favorable for humanity and what's the opposite of favorable for humanity. And we cannot, in my opinion, cannot override, overlook, bury our heads in the sand, or float above all of this. Of course, do whatever it takes for you to be in a good mood, if possible, in good health, on purpose. You don't have to delve deep into all these things like I tend to do. Absolutely not required. But what is required, if you want to be an awakened, enlightened, illuminated person, if you want to be on purpose, if you want to be aligned with God's plan, which I'm going to be speaking about in a minute, what is God's great reset? And that's really the foundation that underlies all of this. So you're going to have to train yourself to see deeper into the divine plan. Go deeper into your own inner self, your own inner experience, your wiring. Look deeper into others. Don't believe what you're told. Don't stay on the surface. Whatever it is that you want to focus on, you've got to go deeper. Why? Again, because that's what's emerging. The deeper reality is emerging, and it emerges in layers. And as it emerges, like the chicken hatching through the egg is a good example of this, because as each layer of the new emerges, that which was hiding it, that shell, which literally in Kabbalah, the word for shell, in the Hebrew, the word is klipa, and it literally means an impure force that covers up the light. So that shell breaks open and causes like a detritus, if you're feeling like at any point like you're just stuck somewhere in some weird limbo world, not only are you not alone, but you're with the vast majority. I feel that way a lot. I try to bring myself back to my anchors and move forward and go deeper again. But here's the Kabbalistic principle. Between any existence, between anything that manifests in the world of creation and another different form of that thing, an upgraded form of that thing, like think caterpillar to butterfly. So there has to be a creation, something that's created. The word something is yesh in Hebrew, Y-E-S-H. The word for nothing, for infinite divine potential, divine nothingness, that core potential that's underneath and within everything in the worlds of creation, the multiverse. So that's called ayin, A-Y-I-N. And between one yesh and another yesh, one something and another something, there has to be an ayin in between. In other words, we can make step-by-step steady progress. That's something we like to think about. But for a real quantum leap, for real transformation, there has to be a disintegration of the previous level or the previous form or manifestation, and then a new form, a new formation or manifestation of the new level. So things have to go back to ground. Things have to go back to zero. Think the Great Reset. So if in other terms that I heard once from a healer friend of mine, every change is preceded and accompanied by chaos. It's kind of the same idea of good things having to go back to ground, back to zero. So as I've mentioned in previous live streams, the Torah says that Mashiach, the Redeemer and the redemption, is going to come when the world is in a state of what's called Hesech Hadas. How would you spell that in English? I guess H-E-S-E-C-H H-A-D-A-A-S. Hesech Hadas. Das is consciousness, perspective, the consciousness that you're connected to. And Hesech is like a removal of Das. So the way that consciousness, the way it's often interpreted is that the redemption will happen when people aren't paying attention. That's not the real inner meaning. The real inner meaning is when our Das, when our personal consciousness, our beliefs, our attachments, the way that we perceive things, because that's the way our brain is wired to perceive. That's the way we were taught to perceive. That's the way we're told to perceive. So the way that we perceive things by default, it's got to get uprooted and disconnected. It's got to be removed. How come? Because then we can go deeper. Our previous perceptions, society's perceptions, the narrative that the mainstream media is giving us, the narrative that has been, I would like to say imposed upon us, but that's yes, I will say imposed upon us by the powers that be, so to speak, for a long, long, long time. So that, and the ultimate power is God, this process, the snake energy, the cunning of the snake, confusing and presenting a narrative that, okay, has some truth in it, but it's not really the truth. So now we still have that narrative going, and it's our default. And to the point where there's something, maybe you've heard the term called abnormality bias. We have a bias. The human beings have a predisposition to dismiss any information that seems too different from what we already know. And it's a deeply wired phenomenon. Like you can almost see something happening in front of your face and just not believe it because it's too wild. No, sorry. No. So we have this pre-existing narrative, this pre-existing lens through which we look at life, our das, our consciousness. And in order for us, again, that's one yesh, that's one form of reality, one level of reality. In order for us to get to the destined level of reality of the redemption, a world of love and blessing and oneness and miraculous divinity, and so much more, a world without suffering, without servitude, without poverty, without corruption, without death, with, a world of joy where all delicacies will be like dust, infinitely abundant and not even important. So for us to move to that blissful state that is the purpose for the world's creation, this is the end goal for this phase of evolution. It's the beginning of the next phase. So in order to go from the state of the human condition, the suffering, the servitude, the confusion, the burden, the manipulation, the control, the blindness, all that stuff, in order to go from that into something so different, we talk about heaven on earth, but who really believes it? Heaven on earth. That doesn't mean heaven in heaven. That means heaven right here. That is the destiny. That is the vision. So how do we align with that? We cannot. It is not possible to get there from here. In other words, it is not possible to align your mind, your heart, your cellular wiring, your actions with the divine vision of destiny that's unfolding pretty quickly right now. It's impossible to do that without allowing yourself to go to ground. You cannot go from one state to a completely different state without going back to zero in between, without an ayin in between. And that is Hesach Hadas. And that is the innermost, in my opinion for right now, the innermost level that we need to look at in terms of the great reset, because we are being reset. All of us are being reset. Are you going to resist it? You're going to go with it. I learned a long time ago, in healing as well as in other areas of life, resistance causes symptoms. So how much are we resisting what's coming in? How much are we resisting seeing it? How much are we resisting dealing with it because we just don't want to, because it's so complicated, because it's so hard to discern the truth, and who has time? Okay, you may be under lockdown. That's a whole other story. Or, you may just be in this limbo state. I am encouraging you to go deeper. Even go deeper into your resistance. So the global is personal and the personal is global, even more cosmic. Because truly this universe is holographic. Everything affects everything. Everything is connected to and even within everything. So when you go deeper, when you train yourself to go deeper, when you understand that we are undergoing a cosmic great reset, and part of that is the spiritual war, and part of the spiritual war, you are a soldier in that war. There are no civilians here. There are no civilians on the planet right now. But how do you deal with the war? It doesn't have to be through fighting. It can be a peaceful war. But to understand what's happening, to go deeper, to see deeper, to know deeper, to understand deeper, both in terms of everything that's evolving and showing up in our world, all of the agendas, learn to go deeper, to discern who's good and who's not. You won't necessarily know from the surface. You certainly won't know from what you're being told by the media. Okay? And then even deeper than that, to understand that this is an unfolding. We are living in the times that were spoken of by sages and prophets thousands of years ago. We are living the times that people have prayed to see for thousands of years. We're on our way home, right here in this world. This world's turning into home with all the resonance that home really has for us. Just think for a moment, what would it feel like to be truly home, to rest, to be safe, for it to be all done and just ready to unfold and enjoy and unpack and live with and create with and share and discover and explore home. Okay, that's right here. But in order to get across the chasm from past to future, from the wired-in snake consciousness, the human condition, the trauma, the suffering that we have experienced, that every generation has experienced, that's wired in to the previous, to the conditioned form of Yesha, something that we've lived with for so long, in order to cross that chasm, that make a quantum leap literally into another reality, we have to allow the Hesed Hadas, we have to allow the Great Reset to occur within ourselves, and more than allow, we have to facilitate it. So here's my suggestion for you. Until next week, I hope I'll do another. I'm aiming toward Wednesdays for right now for the Going Deeper series, and Mondays for the Soul Bites text-based series. And there are other events that are coming toward you. So before I give you your little bit of fairy dust homework to sprinkle on your life, just want to remind you, if you appreciate this, if you resonate with it, if you think it's valuable, please like, please share it. Please comment, because all of those things, as you probably know, the social media giants do not readily share everything that anyone wants to present. They wait to see if people like it. In other words, the more generally, the more positive engagement that gets done with any bit of any presentation, any video, any comment, any post or whatever on social media, the more you get involved, the more people will see it, even besides the ones you share it with. So if you resonate, that's one thing you could do to take part, both of my work and anybody else that you resonate with. You want to spread and share the light. It's really important. Even hitting that like button, how often do we think about it? It makes a difference. Okay, besides that, what I'd like to suggest for you to do is just question your perceptions. Until next week, look around and ask yourself, am I seeing as deeply as I can in a relationship that bothers you? You can ask yourself, am I seeing the inner of this person, the inside of this person? Am I looking as deep as I can? When you have a trigger in you, when you get triggered, when you're in a bad mood or you're angry or you're nervous or whatever, instead of trying to bounce out or distract yourself or react to it with yelling or eating or drinking or whatever we all do. So give yourself a few moments at least to look deeper. Ask yourself, Ayeka, where am I? What am I feeling? What's really going on underneath the surface? What's the inner fear? If you ask yourself just this question, what's the fear here? You will find it totally life-changing, guaranteed. What is the fear? What is the fear? And just listen for the answer. You don't have to do anything with it. Going deeper by itself, God is moving events along. I'm not saying we should never act. I think we should, but the core of all action is just the going deeper. From the deeper the dimension you connect to and really live with, the less effort it takes to change things. Sometimes it's just a thought or a word. Why? Because the deeper you go, the more you're connected to the divine force that's moving it all through. Okay, so I think we'll leave it at that. Looking deeper, asking yourself, what's the fear? Being skeptical of the narrative, trying to find an opposite point of view, just to, try to get more discerning about what's true and what's false. It's all part of the process. We're all in it together, and best of all, we're all in it with God. The future destiny victory is already in the bag because it's the divine vision. If you haven't heard me say it before, or even if you have about prophecy, the Torah says that negative prophecies do not have to materialize physically. So if you're scared about that, don't worry. Or maybe worry and do something about it, but they do not have to materialize physically. They have to accomplish their purpose, which is to shift us, the Great Reset. But a positive prophecy must come true literally. Why? It's God's vision. It's happening. That's it. All we have to influence here is the path toward which this destiny will unfold. It's happening so fast now. The more of us that can go deeper, the more of us that will question, learn, where do you find the true information about the divine blueprint in the divine blueprint, the Torah, especially in the mystical Torah. Even there, you want to go deeper. Don't learn on the surface. It's not just, information or inspiration. It's a transmission from God that empowers you, that wakes up your soul, that allows you to see in a much more expanded, multidimensional way that gives you access to miraculous abilities that you never had before. It's a process, but who says how fast or slow it has to be? Anyway, I'll leave it at that for today. Thanks for being with me in this first episode of Going Deeper with Shipra, and I look forward to amazing things on the journey with you. Blessings to everyone, and happy Thanksgiving for those who celebrate. Oh, I should have said this in the beginning, but today is also Tess Kislev, the 9th of the month of Kislev, which is the birthday and the yahrzeit, the anniversary of the death, the passing of the Mittler Rebbe, the second Rebbe of Chabad Lubavitch, whose texts I opened for you on, he has many texts, but one of whose central texts I opened with you on Monday in Soul Bites. So this is a month of great transformation, darkness to light, and